Now, a research project is being launched today. Scientists are trying to find out more about ticks. There is a reason. They're found throughout the British countryside, and the parasites survive by feeding off blood.
But they can leave some of their victims with more than just a red mark. They also carry Lyme disease, which, left untreated, can develop into a chronic, debilitating condition. Let's go to John Maguire, who's in the New Forest for us. And I know, John, I've been warned already. I've seen you have some ticks with you, which I don't really like, but you're going to tell us how to get rid of them as well. Morning.
We are, Louise. Morning to you. I have some in a small vial here, and researchers from the University of Bristol are gathering them as we've been talking to you this morning. Only some of them carry Lyme disease, but as you say, it can be a very, very unpleasant condition, especially if it reaches the chronic stage. Have a look at what the guys are doing. This is called dragging, and we've been finding lots and lots of ticks here in the undergrowth in the New Forest, but as you say, they're also prevalent right across the UK, especially at this time of year. You know what? They like warm, wet winters, and they indeed can survive really well through a warm, wet summer as well. Global warming is believed to be behind the increase in them. That there is an adult female. At best, they're a pest, they're an irritant, but at worst, they can carry and cause Lyme disease, which is, as I say, a very unpleasant condition. We're hunting for ticks. At this time of year, they wait, often on the tips of long grass, and attach themselves to a passing deer, dog, or even person in search of blood.
So this is before and this is after?
That's correct. It takes them about 10 days to actually take a full blood meal, but over the course of that 10 days, they'll increase their body size by about 200 times, and that's about the equivalent of a human being ingesting a swimming pool full of blood. Right. So they really take very, very large blood meals. Here we found one, Ixodes viscus.
Today, scientists at the University of Bristol are asking vets across the entire UK to collect ticks from dogs and send them in to be studied. It's hoped they'll learn more not only about the parasite, but also the patients they can infect with Lyme disease. It's the biggest research project of its kind.
We'll be looking at the DNA of those pathogens inside the ticks. So we hope to build up this really big, comprehensive picture of exactly where the ticks are and what they're carrying in the UK.
In most cases, Lyme disease can be tackled with antibiotics, but if left unchecked, it can become chronic. A promising competitive rower, Kelly Marr fell ill when she was just 14. The effect on her young life has been devastating.
As I've gone through the past 10 years, the symptoms have changed. Some have got a lot worse and I've developed new symptoms. I still have faints and seizures. I still have neurological and cognitive problems, facial paralysis, palpitations, respiratory problems. The list goes on and on, it really does.
She was continually misdiagnosed, used to faint 15 to 20 times a day, and has been to Europe and America seeking treatment at a cost to her family of more than £100,000.
What people really need to understand is that this is an illness that if we are aware and if we catch it early, it will never become, it is very unlikely to become a chronic, very debilitating illness. So that's where we can change things.
Avoidance, though, is easy.
Check their armpits.
Checking children or animals for ticks after going for a walk is the best way to stay safe.
The way you remove a tick is to push the tick in between the prongs of the tick remover hook, and you very gently twist. You never pull straight away from the dog, just always twist, and the tick will come away. And you must check that the head and the legs have come with the tick and not still embedded in your dog. So you'll see the little legs waving, and that's how you'll know you've got the whole tick.
An adult female tick will lay thousands of eggs, so they're here to stay. Protection and prevention are the only ways to guard against becoming infected, but this research should help us to understand more about this bloodthirsty pest. Gruesome, aren't they? Let's find out a little bit more with Chris Backham, of course, wildlife expert, and also with Paul Sands, who's a vet, and Itchy and Scratchy. Chris, your dogs that you brought with you this morning.
Indeed, yeah.
It's an increasing problem we've been saying. We think it's because of global warming, and it's one you're all too familiar with.
Indeed. Global warming is certainly playing a part. Our warmer, wetter winters mean there's a greater overwinter survival of the adult ticks. We're seeing them earlier in the spring, they're active longer throughout the year, and their population's increasing too. Along with the population, of course, of their host, we have ever more deer in the UK, UK. We've got a healthy sheep population that's farmed, and 8 million dogs as well. So wherever you are in the UK, there's a chance that you're going to bump into ticks, and that's happening ever more frequently.
They're a parasite, of course. In the natural world, do they have any benefits, or is it all bad news?
Everything has a benefit.
Okay.
Everything has a benefit. I rather like ticks. I admire them. I just don't want them on myself and on my dogs. And it is of critical concern because they're capable of transmitting diseases, and that's why we're running this big tick project. We want to identify which ticks are where, in what sort of numbers, and whether they're carrying us diseases. So we're asking people to go into their vets, get them checked. We can recover the animals, send them off to the university, and then we'll have a better idea of where they are. Now, where we're sat this morning, we found lots of ticks. My 2 dogs are constantly treated. Here in the New Forest, there's a large population of deer. It's no worse than anywhere else in the country, but prevention is always better than cure. So the thing to do is, if you're in any area and you love your dogs as much as I do, you take them to the vet and get them treated.
Yeah, Paul Sands, you're going to be taking part in this research project. You know, from a vet's perspective, how important do you think it is?
I think it's really important, John, that people are aware, not fearful of, this isn't scaremongering, but just aware of the dangers that Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses can present to ourselves and our dogs. The difficulty we have is trying to detect the juvenile forms of ticks on dogs such as Itchy and Scratchy. The juvenile forms are perhaps only 1 millimetre in size or smaller. So oh, here they go.
They've spotted another dog. All right, calm down. Shh. So, all right, Chris is going to go and deal with Itchy and Scratchy. So I think you were saying juvenile are very difficult to spot.
Juvenile are very difficult to spot, but the adult engorged ticks are much easier to find.
Yeah.
The important thing would be if we can rely on products that will work on our pets to protect them, and there are a number of formulations available nowadays, including typically spot-on formulations that can last about 4 weeks for protection, collars, sprays, and nowadays they've even got oral chewable formulations, and these can provide protection for up to 12 weeks. Very convenient, very effective. So it's not about scaremongering, it's about education and becoming more aware.
So there's quite a lot that people can do, and the vets are a good place, especially when you're concerning dogs. Vets such as yourself are a good place to go to, I guess.
Absolutely. Check if your veterinary practice is taking part in this big tick project. Go along for a tick check, and the vets will check your pet thoroughly, tip to tail, top to bottom, and if we can find any ticks on the pet, well, we'll submit them to the University of Bristol and gain more understanding of this emerging disease.
All right, Paul, thank you very much indeed. Chris, thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
There's a Labrador puppy came bounding into the woods, and it wasn't the ticks that set them off, it was the puppy.
If there was ever a person that you never needed to tell not to work with children and animals, I'm sure Chris Packham is one of them. So from the 3 of us, Itchy and Scratchy, of course, back to you guys in the studio. This research, by the way, should take probably about 6 months, so hopefully we'll be able to tell you exactly what they've found out when they've got under the skin of the ticks that are so unpleasant when they get under our skin.
John, oh, stop it, John. You're making it worse.
We've been curious, though. What were the dogs upset about, John?
What was it, Chris? It was they spotted a puppy or something, didn't they?
A little Labrador puppy came bounding into the woods here, and they were surprised by that. But let's hope that Labrador's been to the vets and been treated as well.
I hope so.
Because as we've seen, we're only 10 metres from the car park, and there's a healthy population of ticks right here.
Yeah.
So we've got to look after our pets and ourselves as well.
All right, guys, thank you from everybody, and especially from the stars of the show, Itchy and Scratchy.